Korg M1 was the most popular synth of the late 80s. Released in 1988, it had all the features of a workstation. Multi-timbral sampled ROM, multi-effects, and an 8-track sequencer. The Kurzweil K1000 that came out in 1984 had the features of a workstation, but it cost over $10,000. Since the M1 was affordable, about 250,000 were made. How many is 250,000? Imagine M1s laid long ways along a highway. The keyboards would stretch about 157 miles. It became the standard of synth workstations. Roland and Yamaha responded to the great success of the M1 with the D-70 and the SY77. This video will compare similar patches of the four synths. Of course, I won't compare all the factory patches. That could take hours. Just the main sounds people want in a synth, like piano, strings, synth brass, and bass. The patches will be played together in a song, so you can hear how the patches sit in a mix. I have a song arranged on the QI700, but I haven't MIDI'd it yet to the synths, so I'm really curious how the song will sound with the different instruments. So far, I only recorded the intro that was a MIDI stack of the four romplers. Last week, I borrowed an M1R from my off-the-matrix friend Chip. His channel is Folk Rock for You. This is actually an EX M1R. The EX is the one to get because it has extra 4 megabytes of samples. I'm not much of a fan of the M1 piano. It sounds good in the mid-range, but it's one sampled from the mid-range of here, key mapped all the way up to the top range. So the EX has extra piano samples in that range. Above the Korg synth is the Kurzweil 1000 PX Plus. It has many of the samples of the K250, and it's a K1000 in the rack. I overlooked it for years, assuming it was just some kind of piano module, but it's actually quite a synth. I plan on doing a review of it later. This is my D-70. Unfortunately, it has the red glue issue. Roland used red glue to mount weights under the keys, but after years, the glue deteriorated or melted and blocked up the sensors. So the keyboard itself is unplayable, but fortunately I can use MIDI to play the synth. It has a lot of advantages over the M1. One is that the 4 oscillators can be panned left and right in a mix. The M1 is only 2 oscillators, and at the patch level you only have mono. You have to go into combination mode to be able to pan anything. So I really need to get the keys on the D-70 fixed. And last but certainly not least, the SY77. I'll actually be using the SY99 to play the SY77 factory patches. For the 20 years that I had the SY99, I never loaded these SY77 patches, so there was a few surprises. My last video covered how to use FM for a stereo piano patch. The SY77 factory patches didn't have a patch that used my method, but I found this tack piano that was quite interesting because it sounded like the old clangy upright that I had years ago. So I'll use this for the demo. I'm going to use the Korg M1 for the drum track. I was thinking about using the QI700 because I already had it programmed in that, but the M1 had some interesting drum samples like this whip. Because the M1 was one of the first synths, there wasn't this general MIDI standard. So although some of the samples I don't really find very useful, I got to keep in mind that they had, I think at that time, more creativity or freedom to be creative. I got the QI700 MIDI'd up to the synths. All the patches are really similar with the exception of the bass. I used the pick bass on the M1 because I thought it sounded the best, and then on the D70 I'm using a synth bass. But other than that, all the patches are very similar. To get the most out of the video, I recommend listening through headphones or good speakers. Yeah, that was really interesting. It gave me an idea what I need to work on for the patches for the other synths, because each synth had different strengths. Feel free to comment in the section below. Although the M1's piano is known for house music, I didn't find any of the basses in the factory patches to be punchy enough as like the lately bass. So that's one thing that's going to be created for it. But the real secret sauce of the new M1 bank will be from overriding the M1's key maps. The often matrix bank for the SY77 is already finished, and it really blows away many of the factory patches. For example, this is the factory jazz guitar. Compare that to the often matrix Mr. Clean. Thanks for watching.